Every time they tell me stop, I use every comment, hate that makes my feel. Gather up my energy and boom, I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with, giving my blood, so I am relentless.
Well, the Keep Hammering Collective with Kevin Fallon and Dave Dombrow. Thanks, guys, from Speedland. Appreciate you guys coming to Springfield, Oregon. I almost said Eugene, but Springfield, Oregon.
Yeah, honored.
It's man, this is going to be fun because our number one thing that we're doing is talking about our partnership, and it's a big honor for me to be connected with you guys, and we're kind of releasing or showcasing the brand new Cameron Hanes shoe, your Speedland product, and it looks amazing. But I wanted to find out, what is Speedland? How are we right here, right now? Tell me what's happened.
You want to take that?
Yeah, well, let's go back maybe to the beginning a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one unique thing is Kevin and I, we've worked together for, it's been almost 22, 23 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And it started way back in Nike. That's where we met. And then at that time, we were doing basketball shoes, actually.
Were you in the movie? Did you make the Air Jordan? We
didn't make the cut.
No. We didn't make the cut. Did see that though. It was quite an entertaining, good movie.
So that was how many years ago was that? That would probably been 40 years ago now.
Yeah, that was that. They set that in the Jordan space. So 84.
80, right?
When that was
so
set.
Close to 40 years.
Yeah,
and you guys were 20 years after that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't save the basketball market.
No.
We had nothing to do with that.
It was doing quite well already when we got there. But that's where we met, and I was doing some inline design, which is kind of designing for different players, and when Kevin was on the innovation side in basketball. So that was kind of the genesis of us meeting, and then we ended up going from there to eventually Puma together.
Really?
Well, not together, but we ended up there together.
We ended up working closely together. I was managing the design team in Germany, and Dave was managing the design team in Boston. So
Gotcha.
we really learned to
You make
work.
this more in the middle right here.
There you go.
Yeah, there. Perfect.
We learned to work well together, coordinating creative directions for the season and design reviews across the ocean, and so that was.
And that was what in Puma, was that running shoes or what was that?
Kind of everything.
Oh,
honestly.
all of them.
Yeah. So anything from football or what's soccer boots to running to more of lifestyle stuff. So it kind of crossed over in every dimension. Actually, motorsport was a big thing of all things back then with Puma. So we did that, and then we ended up at Under Armour together, and that's where we were together the longest. We were there almost 10 years. And again, Kevin was again on the innovation side, and I was on the inline side directing that. So
what does inline side mean?
That's like when you're working basically, say, 2 to 3 years out, and if you think of like innovation working like 3 to 5 or even longer, 3 to 7 years out.
I hate that part.
Yeah.
I like the one day out.
Yeah, you're very real time.
Yeah.
But the way it works, right, is innovation in the way it should work is innovation feeds concepts and into inline, and then inline commercializes them.
Right.
And so that's kind of been our relationship in the past. And so long story short, when we left Under Armour, that was kind of the perfect blend for Speedland, because we had a little bit different skill sets, but we could bring those together to create, what we're doing now.
Right. Well, and when you were at Under Armour, was that when I was doing my shoes over there too?
Yep.
Like,
yes.
Designer I worked with a lot was Sean.
Yeah, Sean.
Right?
Sean
yeah.
down at,
Oh yeah, he was awesome. Yeah. I love Sean. I think he's
great,
he's at Hoka now, I think. Is he still?
I believe he is.
Yeah.
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 I don't know. It's
I think he's there officially.
Yeah, he did like, I don't know if he did the trail shoe, but I know he did the boot. And
Yeah, there were a number of people involved. Another guy who's Matt Rask was also was involved with you before, maybe even before Sean.
He's at Hoka.
He's at Hoka.
Really? Yeah.
Hoka, yeah.
I call it Woka.
Yeah.
They, man.
They have an operation.
They're
They
inclusive.
have an operation in Portland now.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. I mean, they're headquartered in Santa Barbara, but they have I don't know what the full I don't know. Maybe you're up on it more than me, but I know they have a design operation of some sort in Portland.
They make good shoes, but the marketing part is always like pretty interesting to me on these these running shoes, or not just running shoes, but it's like everything nowadays. But yeah, I mean, I like when it's just focused on hey, just make cool shoes. Can we do that?
Yeah, that's where we are right now, and it's not a million miles from where Hoka started, right? They were super niche. They had a crazy concept, right? This really thick mid-soled shoe for downhill mountain running, and they grew it into a $1 billion brand.
They're killing it.
They're doing really well, and I think we are following in a similar path where we want to focus on the mountain runner, and we just saw an opportunity. We love the outdoors, so for us, if we're going to pour our heart and soul into something, we want it to be out in the mountains and be enjoying that. And then, that athlete like you're out there doing some crazy things. What's happening in mountain running and the distances and the terrain. We felt it was really underserved. A lot of times trail was a second cousin to road running. All the technology, all the R&D is going into road running.
Right.
And it still is with the big brands.
It is. It isn't.
Yeah.
It's just if you're a $40 billion brand like Nike, trail is tiny.
Yeah.
It's hardly worth the squeeze. For us, that's all we want to focus on.
Right.
And we wanted to bring the best of everything we knew from our career: the best fit system, the best materials, the best foams, the best traction. And that was kind of our philosophy: is let's not start with a price that we want to buy this from the factory. Let's start with, how do we make the best product that we can make, and bring that to the mountain runner and see if it resonates with them.
Why the mountain? I mean, why are you guys more focused on that than road running?
Well, one, there's a lot of great product happening on the roadside, right? There's a war happening for marathon racing shoes.
Yeah.
And that's not something we wanted to step into. I mean, Nike's making great product in that space. And what we saw was that same level of obsession wasn't happening for trail. And it's different. You can't just take what works on the road and translate it to the trail, because
I've tried.
Yeah.
I tried.
Right. And so did we.
Yeah.
We tried everything, and those really stiff plated shoes, off camber stuff and rocks are dangerous.
Yeah.
And so that's where we saw the opportunity, and felt like nobody was really obsessing those details in a way that we could. And that's what we wanted to do.
I'm always like, I think it's from hunting, is because when you're packing everything you need on your back, ounces matter, right? So I used to, back in the day, backcountry boning is all I did. There'd be a thing like you'd have your toothbrush, you cut the handle off your toothbrush because you got to save this. So it's like, I have that mindset. It's like the less I have to carry every step. And I think about the, even in Without Limits, the Prefontaine movie, I think, was it Bowerman? Who was talking about, you take this many, your stride is 6 feet. You're running this many strides per mile, this many ounces per stride, 50,000 pounds at the end of the race, something like that. But anyway, that mindset I've always had. So I'm like, well, I'm going to run in the mountains. I don't want to carry more than I have to. So I would try to get away with the road running shoes in the mountains, and they're just not enough there. So you're going downhill, your toes are just slammed in the front of the shoe. You're side hilling and your feet are rolling off the sole basically, and that's causing issues. So then it's like, okay, I need more of a shoe. And then it's like, well, this one feels clunky, right? Or it's whatever. So, and these, I mean, your Speedland, this new shoe, I mean, you just feel it. And you can go in and look at shoes all the time. I love shoes. I've been a shoe guy forever. And you just kind of feel it, and you're like, okay, that feels pretty good, pretty light. And then it's like, is there enough to it? Yeah, the structure's there. Oh, the BOA. What I do, like if I'm going downhill and I know my feet might slide because it's steep downhill, I just tighten that up a little bit. I get back on flat, I back it off a little bit. And it's like that, you can't do that with laces. So just all those different things, I see why you guys could obsess about that. And it seems like it's been realized, your focus has been realized with this shoe. I mean, is that where you guys are at?
Yeah. I mean, I think everything's, it's a constant process, right? We're always trying to get better. And with this shoe, we feel like we're able to, dial in some things as time has gone on. And like,
was that for the BOA dial?
yeah,
Is that
exactly. No pun intended, but yes. But you're right. I mean, like that insight you just said, like, yeah, I'm able to adjust it real time. And a lot of our elite runners, trail runners say the same thing, like, especially in a race when even if it's a long race, say.
You don't want to stop for a second.
You don't want to stop. Yeah. And so if they can adjust.
Let alone a minute, like to do laces. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a huge advantage. Let alone the fidelity of it, right? The precision increments. You just can't get that with laces the same exact way. So we think there's a lot to it there. And your other comment about the weight, they're light, but we're we use this term recently, like we want them to be lightweight, but more importantly, we want them to be the right weight. So right weight is something that we like to say a lot of times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're light, but they're the right weight for what you need. Like you said, if they're too unstructured, that creates a problem.
Yeah, I think if you chase the grams and try to make it the lightest, you're compromising something. Durability or stability. And so we're trying to find that balance where you get great longevity and you get the stability, but we're still competitive in the weight zone. So
yeah, and I know, I mean, I'm not affiliated with, now with Speedland I am, but I tried all the different shoes, right? And Hoka's were pretty good, but I don't want to say disintegrate, but that sole is light and cushiony, but you only get a few like hard runs out of it. It feels like, and you're already compromised a little bit because the structure isn't there because it is so comfortable. So it's almost like it's comfortable for like a week. And then it's like now my foot, it's just sinking in too much. So I get where it's, and then, I tried some other ones. I tried Kraft, I tried Solomon, I tried all of them. And all of them have some, it's a give and take. And to find the perfect thing is difficult. And then I ran, just did an ultra last weekend with these. And I was like, man, those were money. I made a couple adjustments during the run because it was up and down. It was muddy. And the performance was awesome. So, I mean, I've put a lot of miles in these shoes and I've been very impressed. It seems like you guys killed it with those.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's a process for sure. We really put athletes at the center of everything we do. And I think you've seen a little bit of that in the time we've interacted that, we want the texts from our athletes, hey, this is working, this is not working, and we make adjustments as real time as we can to tweak and constantly listen and try to make things better. But fundamentally, we're choosing higher quality materials. We're charging a little higher price. We're in a different, as a small brand, we can do things differently than the big brands. And Hoka, Solomon, they make some great products, but they're big brands and they're caught up in we kind of call it that product cycle where sometimes you see products are being redesigned before the previous ones in the market. They don't really know what they're making better other than tweaking. From maybe some wear testing along the way. And we've seen that, and we don't want to do that. We want to make it better when better materials become available, or when our athletes say, "Hey, I need this kind of tweak."
I mean, to add on, we don't even really want to be a brand unless we can make it better. If we can't make something better and have that as our objective, like, we don't need to just make another shoe.
Right.
Like, that's not what Speedland's about.
Yeah.
So any product, honestly, we would ever come out with in the future, the idea would be like, we're making it better than what's out there.
Yeah.
That's the reason, this whole no compromises. Like, that's what the whole brand and athletes is what it's founded on.
Yeah, I like when I hear you guys say you listen to the athletes and listen to feedback, because I had a great experience at Under Armour, but I did have some tweaks that, just like on the boot, I said, hey, I want a loop on the back of it, because sometimes those boots, when you're trying to get your foot down the boot and it's kind of tight, you want something, there's nothing to pull back there. Yeah. I'm like, I just want that loop on the back. Oh, yeah, we'll get the loop on the back. Never happened. I'm like, if I'm using it and I say I want that, why didn't it happen? So it's like stuff like that for, an athlete or whatever is like, yeah, if you want the feedback, take it and let's do something with it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's simply because of the layers.
Yeah.
The layers of people and management and all this stuff, right? Like, where with us, it's us.
It's two guys right now. So it's either Dave or me or both.
If it doesn't happen, you just come yell at us.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the other things that we felt we could do different and better than a big company. And for the right athletes, that's the people who come to us are frustrated with those kind of things. Where if you have an athlete manager or there's people in between you and that product team, it's kind of silly. And I think we got frustrated with that even in previous jobs we've had. Like, why can't the product teams get closer to the athletes? And there's always some reason.
Yeah.
But it's not a good one.
No.
There's really, like, if you're going to engage in these relationships, like, it's got to be meaningful on both sides. And if you're going to an athlete and saying, hey, I want, you to wear our product, you should listen to what they have to say about it.
Yeah. It's, and I understand, with a brand like those big brands, I think Under Armour got to 5 billion or whatever in sales.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit down with, Kevin Plank and say, hey, I want this. Like I'm sitting down with you guys, so I get that. And that's part of the business. It's just like you get huge. And then, I like that. I don't know. You can't, I guess, as you said, you're trying to do the best of both worlds, trying to specialize in mountain running, and with a big brand, you can't really specialize in too many things. You got to kind of hit the hot spots on some of them, do the best you can. So I get it. It's there's a difference between a giant brand and an upstart brand like you guys. So, not trying to shit on anybody because that's just
nor are we. We're not either. It's just a difference of focus.
Yeah.
And when you're a big brand, the running market on the road is far, far bigger.
Yeah.
So that's
where
where
you
they're
get the
going to
attention.
focus, right?
I get it.
And for us, as a small startup brand, we want to serve the mountain athletes, and there's plenty of business there for a small brand like us if we do it the right way. That's what we think.
And that's not to say we might not do a road shoe someday.
Yeah.
But if we do a road shoe, it's for a reason. It's because our mountain athletes are training on the road. Right. And they need a great road training shoe. We probably will never make a racing road shoe.
Right.
Because, there's many other brands that are doing a great job on that. It's more authentic and core to who they are. So that's the thing. Like, we always want to stay authentic and core to who we are to make something better.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. I do want to touch, I just had Kip Fulks on, and he was one of the original founders of Under Armour. And here's how he described you guys. So I don't know if you guys will...
Oh boy.
Kip, he'll but he said, yeah, I know. He said, I'm sure, let me think how this went. He said, Kevin was a genius and Dave is just one of the best shoe designers you'll ever find. So that's what he said.
There you go.
Wow. I'm not sure I'm ready to wear that, but I'll take it. This is kind. I mean, we had Kip for us was an inspirational leader. I think he was one of those guys who, there's no bullshit with Kip.
Right.
He's going to tell you where you stand. And I think we really appreciated that. In a big company, sometimes that's rare, and for him to sometimes it's not always what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear. And I think it was a, great time when we had Kip kind of leading us at UA. We missed him when he left. That's for sure. The place changed.
Definitely changed. I mean, he's been one of my best friends, and I do appreciate, just as you said, he'll just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
And in life, you need people like that. I mean, you can't sugarcoat everything. Sometimes you need to hear the hard truth, or, if you did a good job, it's nice to hear you did a good job. If you fucked up, I got to hear about it.
Yep.
And he's good for that. But I wanted to share that too, because he's been instrumental in even our partnership, kind of been the middleman and bringing us together. And it's, to me, it's exciting because it's weird. This business is crazy. I mean, there's Olympic athletes, Olympic runners with small followings. They're the best in the world. They should have millions of people following what they do. Running is such a weird thing where somebody like me, who I'm far from an Olympian, I run every day. I love running. I love the mountains. I'm not like best in the world, but I get this opportunity with you guys. And it seems crazy sometimes, because I was thinking about this earlier. Like the best you can't have like some guy who's good on the playground. I'll just say I'm like good on the playground in basketball, right? Some guy who's good on the playground isn't going to be competing with LeBron James with a shoe. But in running, it's just a weird Isn't that weird?
It's very different.
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the things we love about this space and you know, the athletes is it's a great community, you know, and people are accessible. You know, you can go up to one of the best ultra runners in the world and nobody's going to know who they are, and they're going to likely to have a chat with you, you know, and we love that approachability. And
it is interesting though, the way you bring it up, because I was thinking about this too, because like, yeah, we're off to Cocodona in 3 weeks, right?
Oh, nice.
When one of our athletes running that, and it is interesting the way you said it, because like, yeah, you'll have very average, I mean, include myself in that, very average runners lining up against with whatever, very elites.
Yeah.
And they're in the same race.
Right. I know.
They wouldn't be on the same basketball court.
No.
But then maybe that is kind of the great part about it, that like,
it is.
Everybody can participate. And some of these races are hard to get into. You got to get lottery tickets and everything else, like Western or Hard Rock or any of these. But yeah, that is kind of interesting that, you know, every runner can be in the same race. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, running is like, so how many superstar runners are there? You know, I mean, not a bunch. Not a bunch who are like, you know, because social media is kind of weird. Like I said, like, you know, an Olympian might have 5,000 followers,
right?
You know, and they deserve more to make more of an impact. Right. There's a few, you know, there's Emma Coburn. She's got a big following. Sure. She deserves it. 3-time Olympian. Right. Very marketable, blonde hair, just fit, badass. But there's only a few runners who fit in that, and it's just
and in trail running, even fewer, right?
Exactly.
When you think of, like, I don't know if household name is the right thing, but like
you've got Killian
and
Walmsley,
and then you got Courtney, obviously, that you recently had on, and I mean, outside of that, I mean, it's household names are pretty hard to.
I know.
You know.
Yeah. I know. I think that's a cool part of it. Also, is that so people, they can see these shoes, they can line up with the people, they can be wearing the same stuff, have that connection with them, listen to them. Because I know people, like, say with Courtney in the trail running, and probably Jim, but in the same respect, but they really feel like they know Courtney. You know what I mean? Because they watch everything she does. They listen to everything she says. She's so likable. And, of course, that's going to, you know, Solomon has done a good job with her, making her long shorts, making the films with her. And it's like, it's cool to see. I mean, I'm happy to see Solomon supporting somebody like Courtney and her doing the same with that brand and elevating it. Because, as you guys know, when everybody gets elevated, everyone wins, or if a brand gets elevated, then everybody else wins. And so it's cool to see. I mean, she's had a film, I think Solomon helped produce or funded, that has over 2 million views, her Tahoe 200 race. And how cool is that? That many people to be exposed to trail running.
It's awesome. We want to be a part of that, raising up this sport and the amazing things that are happening in the sport and the athletes within it. I mean, it's a great place to be.
And you guys just did that with that race recently up at the Gorge. I mean, Speedland was a big part of that, and I think because wasn't Dylan's the race director of that, and his shoe is the shoe I have on, right?
Yeah,
right.
His company is what. Yeah, he's like I don't know what
he and Daybreak own it together. Through Free Trail and Daybreak, I believe. So that was our in to be a big part of that race, and we're gonna jump at every opportunity that we can and that we can afford to at this stage when it comes to supporting these events. And it's our backyard, and it's a great Pacific Northwest event. I think Dylan said it's now the biggest West Coast ultra.
Really?
One or two.
It's near the top. So, you know, it's great. It's an early season race. It's gets really high level talent, and you know, the conditions are classic Northwest.
Rough.
Yeah.
It looked tough.
It was a tough weekend. We got a lot of rain, and I think on paper it doesn't look like crazy technical. It's not a ton of vert compared to some other races, but man, when it's wet, it's pretty rocky. It's brutal.
I saw some creek crossings. I saw the clips of it, you know, under the waterfalls, crossing the creeks. Those guys were flying. I mean, I think it paid. Didn't it paid for the winners too? Yeah. I mean, there's some prize money up, so that always brings the competition level out.
Yep. Yeah. The early season, having good money, good competition means, you know, it brings them out. So it was a great event. 3
Seemed
days.
like a big success.
Oh yeah.
I was happy to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they sold out really quickly. They added 30K, so they're getting into some of the sub-ultra distances too, which are becoming increasingly popular. So that's, a great gateway into the longer races. So the 30K Friday, 100K Saturday, 50K Sunday was a great weekend.
It seems like the perfect timing for you guys to come into this, to specialize in this, because the ultra running world seems like it's exploding. The interest in it. These races sell out. Even 100-mile races. It's sometimes it's hard to find a 100-miler to run. And 10 years ago, you could always get in 100, other than Western.
Yeah.
You could get into almost any other 100. And now, like, I did that one in Montana last year, first year, the Crazy Mountain, and it sold out in like a couple hours, I think, this year.
Right.
I mean, so it's a perfect time because they're wanting to challenge themselves. To challenge yourself, you need good gear. Or you're going to fail.
Sure. Well, and I think they're making them really accessible. We're having this conversation the other day we had an athlete summit with some of our athletes up there, and having this conversation, and some of these groups like this Aravipa, we're sponsoring, who puts on Cocodona, and we're sponsoring.
Is that Jamel?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And
great,
the
super
events,
nice guy,
super nice,
great guy.
And the events are just super accessible, and the distances are super accessible depending on how you want to play it. So you can get kind of every type of runner. So it's kind of great, like what's happened on the road side in the past with these distances, obviously going from like 10K to half marathon to marathons. And you see all this participation in half marathons growing at such a rapid thing. Same kind of thing with trail. I mean, you see these kind of, say, what did I run in Coldwater? I ran like a 20-mile distance, right? Coldwater in Arizona. It's what a great introductory distance, for kind of it's not like an ultra, but it's still a longer race.
Yeah.
And you can get somebody it's not maybe off the couch, but it's like somebody who's been running, and it's like, okay, I'm going to go dip my toe in and run a 20-mile race down in Arizona, And so this group, Aravipa, I mean, they have a ton of these things going on. So, I mean, it speaks to what you're saying. That's like, it's really inclusive and it's really growing. And, you get somebody that does a 20 and then they jump to a 50K and then they jump to a 50-mile. And then all of a sudden they're, okay, I'm going to challenge myself with a 100-mile.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem so crazy anymore.
No.
And then, you get people who are going to go do 250 and is there going to be a 500 some? Of course there is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. and Courtney will be the first one to sign up for it. I was thinking about that too. Yeah. Oh, I know. She's amazing. But here's another thing with the trail running community, the ultra community. So here's the difference. I go to a lot of the big track meets here in town. We get the trials and we get the world championships. There's nobody running those races smiling and high-fiving. Courtney will be smiling during a race, having a good time, saying thank you to the aid stations and thanks for. It's like that's a huge difference between ultra world and track world. Track world, it's a job, it's a business. I mean, and you don't have time. You're in the steeplechase, you can't be smiling and having a good time out there. You're grinding. And it's like, to me, the ultra running world is like, and she's winning. So imagine all the people in the back that are actually have time to make a post about it. You know what I mean? Exactly. Share their experience. And it's like, so that accessibility or just sharing in the experience is unique.
Yeah.
And that's what to me, that's what makes it apart, or makes it stand apart. And then also you're in the mountains, which the setting is much different than a track.
Agreed. And that's what I was talking a little bit about earlier. Between these locations, which all of them have unique cultures to them. Right?
Yeah.
You go to the Rut or you go to Western, they have a unique thing going on there. And people, they have a bucket list of these races they want to do based on that. And that along with the different groups that direct these races, bring their own kind of personality. Like people love Aravipa because they know what to expect and they run a good operation. And so between those things, there's just this really neat culture and the accessibility of the people that are at the top of the game is refreshing.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously you guys know I love it. And, man, it's a huge honor to have these shoes here. I did want to talk too. I'm more interested in like how'd you guys get into the shoe business part. I mean, I heard we talked about your history, but were you always like when you're young, shoes? I mean, I don't know, because that's how my dad was an athlete. For him, it was always like he was always wearing Adidas. It's like he went to school, like kind of when Pre went to Oregon, he went to Oregon. And it was Adidas was a big thing, but it was always like running shoe stores and always going. Is that how you guys were? Did you grow up like that?
Yes. Well, so no, in my case, I was definitely a shoe fanatic from when I was very young. I mean, to the point, like my parents said I used to like sleep with my shoes.
Yeah.
So that's weird. But that's what they said. So yeah, a little too much information. But I did, and I was a basketball head growing up. So I used to play basketball, and that's why I was into basketball shoes. So,
what shoes did you sleep with? Which ones what were they talking? Like what? Any new shoe or?
No. So that was back like when, in this case, it was like a Bo Jackson trainer.
Oh, okay.
So like back in the day. So it was Nike days back then. Yeah. So those were some of the early ones. And so that shows my age a little bit, I guess.
Well, I had the Reebok where you pumped them up. Remember those?
Yeah.
Those are pretty sick.
Yeah, remember the slam dunk competition covering the eyes?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so I was that, and so for me, we at different times attended the same design school, and so I was kind of going down two paths. One was kind of more love of sports, and the other was love of cars and anything automotive.
Okay.
And so didn't know which direction I was going to go, and I ended up doing an internship at Solomon at that time. They had an office in Boulder, Colorado. I don't believe they have that anymore, but they had that there. And so I thought I was going to go there, honestly, and do stuff related to skiing and snowboarding, design stuff.
Right.
But they put me on trail running stuff. So they had this series called the Raid series way back in the day, kind of these really cool trail shoes. And so I worked on that stuff out of that office, and that kind of then I went back to school, but that got the bug going. So when I left school, kind of had these two paths, and I went right straight to Nike. Okay. Yeah, Nike recruited me out of school. So and I went straight to do basketball shoes because I was still a basketball head.
What time was that? Like, what Jordan were they on at that time?
They were pretty far. So that was when I went to Nike. That was the spring of 2000. So we were doing. What was cool about that time period? They were all about innovation and doing crazy stuff. So it was more about at that point. The technology and the innovations than it was about the player so much. Now they had players and they were talking about players, don't get me wrong, but it was more about, so they had like that's when Shocks was coming out. If you remember Shocks,
yeah.
Vince Carter was dunking over people.
I had those,
and all yeah. So that was that time period. And it was just fun from a design and innovation standpoint. So that's kind of how I was always kind of into shoes. And that was kind of the perfect marriage of being able to blend shoes with sports. And so Nike was kind of my intro to that.
Gotcha.
That's how, but really Solomon's what got the whole thing rolling. So I guess definitely owe him something.
My route was a little different. Yeah, I wasn't really a shoe guy, a kid growing up. I was really into cars and planes. I got my pilot's license in high school, and I was doing everything I could to get close to cars and wrenching on cars. My dad was not a mechanically capable guy, so I was seeking out friends' dads or internships and things, and managed to get, close to some Porsche race cars at a shop in Florida, and do an internship in college over in Germany. So I did a mechanical aerospace engineering degree first, still thinking I was going to go that way. I thought that's kind of how you got into cars or planes or boats or anything that went fast. And I went to a college, I went to Brown that shared a campus with the Rhode Island School of Design. So I kind of got introduced to this world of design that for whatever reason, I guess I wasn't really tuned into in high school. I didn't kind of know that was a career path. I thought engineering was how you got into that stuff. So I kind of struggled through engineering, got through it, but really found the love for design and made a decision to go back to school after I graduated and get another degree in product design. And my good friend and brother from another mother, Kevin Hoffer, had internships at Nike, and he loved the place and kind of introduced me to that idea of designing for shoes. And when we graduated together, Nike was hiring. This was 97. And he had a job already in innovation there. And there was an opening in Nike soccer, which was kind of, I think, 4th or 5th place in market share in soccer at the time. Like they weren't doing much, but they knew they had to in order to become a global brand. So I was really fortunate to fall into that group. And it was a nice mix for me having an engineering degree and the product design, because there's a lot of technical features about a soccer shoe with an injection molded outsole. So it was a really kind of nice place for me to land, where there was the design aspects, the technical aspects. There was the fact that Nike was putting money into that, and you got to see this business kind of be invested in and grow. And so that really just ignited a fire that kind of hasn't gone out. You know, I didn't know that I loved shoes that much. But, when I took the job, I thought, okay, Nike's a great company. I'll probably do this for a little while and then maybe do something else. But the interesting thing was that it never got old. It never got tiring, in the sense that there's always new materials. There's always new methods of manufacture. There's different problems to solve. So what from the outside seemed like kind of simple became really apparent that there's so much there. And so that's kind of how I fell into it, because a good friend of mine was into it, and opened some doors, and never looked back.
No, I always had friends ask me from a design school. The design school we went to is really well known for, so it makes some sense, for car design. Some of the best car designers in the most.
Which
it's called
school is
Art
that?
Center College of Design. It's in Pasadena.
Okay.
And like some of the top chief design, at all the different automotive companies around the world came from this school.
Okay.
So that's kind of
Probably what got us both
how
there.
we both
Yeah.
ended up there. But I have friends ask me all the time, like, oh, aren't you sick of doing shoes? All this stuff. They used to always ask me, and I don't know, like, I'm more obsessed than ever with doing
Really?
shoes. So it's so funny. Like, the obsession just seems to keep growing, to the point.
And it's one of those things where you think you're an expert, or you think you know a lot, and then all of a sudden you realize something changes, a new technology comes along, or something else changes, and all of a sudden you're not anymore. And so that's super exciting,
Yeah.
I think as far as a career path goes, you never master it. I mean, I never feel that way. I feel like I'm still a student of the thing. I'm still really interested in what's happening and there's, again, so many ways to dive in. You could just spend the aesthetic side, just making beautiful shoes. And then there's all of the technical side to dive into as well. And I think, as Dave mentioned earlier, that's where maybe we complement each other really well. Dave is more on the creative direction and style side for sure than I am, and maybe I lean a little more on the technical side.
Kevin's more of a builder. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
He builds to solve things, and I sometimes visualize or sketch to solve things, and then we kind of come together.
Yeah, that's a good team. Then
It works. It's worked really well for us, and I think as a 2-person shop, it's also been great in that we're not fighting over the same thing. Like, we do different things and we overlap on some things, but it's been a good partnership, and that's, I think, part of why it works for us.
It seems like with the shoe, to me, it's like that sole is always, you talked about the shock, then there was the air, and then those seemed kind of heavy. They're cool. I think they're cushiony.
They've gotten better. They were really pretty hard.
Maybe not the initial shocks
at the beginning. Well, shocks, yeah.
But they probably look good. Everybody notices. Oh yeah, they got those little air things. And it's like that was like a huge marketing thing, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But the shocks were too. And then you talk about Hoka. They're very comfortable, but maybe not structural enough. And then, so how'd you guys wind up with this product here for your sole?
Well, I mean, we sought out the best material that we knew to use.
And to be fair, that's an evolution from our first product, which was a little bit lower profile, a little more technical shoe.
I can't do those zero. I need that lift back here, because have you guys noticed that, like, on it's stretching out that calf more for long races? Do people generally like more stack?
I think so. I mean, I think that not everybody can do zero drop.
Right.
I mean, I think when Born to Run came out, Nike Free was big, and Vibram Five Fingers, and the Minimus from New Balance. There were a host of products around that time that were zero drop.
Yeah.
And I think what lagged behind drastically was the educational portion. That
Right.
you can't just jump from a 12 millimeter offset into a zero drop and run the same. So that idea of like taking 6 or 9 months to transition into zero drop, kind of nobody
they skipped
heard
that part.
Yeah, skipped that, and people got hurt.
Yeah.
Now some people are great in zero drop,
Yeah.
and they have calf complexes and Achilles that tolerate it really well. But I think typically as people fatigue over a long run, they want a little bit of heel ball offset.
And
to
this
take
is
some of the
7,
strain.
right?
7.
That's 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 to 8 is what like most people want to be kind of in that zone. It seems like, and like you said, there's people that can go zero drop, and actually traditionally, if you look, a lot of the road shoes in the past and even today still are like at 10. But
okay.
But 4 to 8 when you're talking about trail, it's a pretty nice zone to be in.
I think the shorter the race, don't you kind of want to be more on your toes. Wouldn't that be right?
Yeah, I think generally the faster you run, the more on your forefoot you are. Sprinters don't touch their heel at
Right.
all, right? So just translating that, the people who are running 5-6 minute miles are very little heel
They're up.
striking.
Yeah.
And some people do that naturally at any pace, but
People ask what my foot strike, and I'm like, I have no idea. I just run. I have no idea. But
and over a long race, it usually changes. Your gait mechanics tend to break down with fatigue.
Yeah.
And so what you do at the beginning is usually for most people different. Now, if someone like Courtney, it's a little different, but
probably never changes, exactly the same forever.
yeah. And
Man, I hate her.
your natural gait. Some people are just set up to put less strain on their body so they can do it easier.
So you say this material
It came out of an evolution of our first shoe.
Okay.
So we had a lower profile shoe, and athletes like Don Reichelt and Liz Canty, two of our very early athletes, kind of said to us, "Hey, I love the shoe, but I need a little more cushioning for those longer distances." So then we thought, okay, we've been getting good feedback on the fit of the upper. We like the interchangeable plate system with the drop-in midsole. That seemed to be well received. People were using that. So we thought, okay, let's do a bigger lower midsole and a new outsole based on that upper. And that's what we started probably a little over a year ago. And again, choosing the best material, this beaded Pebax, we knew had great energy return and really good longevity. And
I haven't seen anybody use this.
it's out there.
Is it?
More on the road side.
Yeah.
And there are some companies using it on the trail side. The difference is they're using it quite soft, which feels great when you're in the store. But when you get on a trail, you don't necessarily need it to be as soft as what you need on the road.
Right.
So that's where we've tried to hit that sweet spot of firm enough that it's not going to give you instability when you're out on the trail.
Yeah, I think bigger brands tend to lean more toward what's going to sell the shoe in the store. And that softer, bouncier foam feels great. And on the road, often it is great. But we, in our testing and what we tried, it just got squirrely and unstable on the trail. And so we went a little firmer. And maybe it doesn't have as much of that kind of wow in store, but we're not in many stores at the moment.
Right.
So we believe the athletes looking at us are saying, okay, these guys are really solving the right problems for mountain athletes. And that's one of our big points of difference. Like that's all we do. We're not taking foam from a road shoe and putting it on the trail. So that's how.
And we don't claim like this shoe's designed for elite performers, and it obviously can work for all levels, but we also don't claim they're for everybody. If they work for you, great.
Yeah.
And we know that we're designing them for elites and for people to go fast in the mountains. But if they don't work for you, that's okay, because you can't when you're trying to make something that's a piece of equipment, it's high performance. It's not going to work for everybody.
Right. Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah.
Most people, their attitude is if it works for the best of the best, I think I'll give it a shot. And they're usually good with that. You know,
and probably 7 or 8 times out of 10, that will be the case.
Yeah.
But again, footwear, anything that goes on the body is just tricky when it comes to fit.
yeah,
I think
everybody's different.
feet in particular, they're tricky. If there's one thing that we've learned in all this time in the business is, there's no silver bullet for fit. People have been trying these digital scans and different fit systems, and we think this is the best for our particular group of athletes, but it's not going to work for every single person.
And we really look at it as a piece of equipment. We haven't said that before, but we rarely call it. We called it a shoe earlier just because we're talking about shoes, but we don't really ever call it a shoe. It's like, no, it's a piece of equipment for your feet when you're running these races or you're training or whatever. And that's the mindset that we have, and that's why we use the best of the best fit system, the best of the best cushioning, the best. We put it through that space when we're creating, not like, oh, we're just making a shoe.
So you guys could be equipment dogs, not shoe dogs.
Right. I like that. Nobody's ever said that. We're going to make a shirt.
And we think that aligns well for the elite mountain runners. Like if there's potentially something that nobody else has made or that's better than what's out there, at least they're interested usually.
Yeah.
And then there's also people who may not be podium finishers, might be mid-pack or backpack, but it's their thing.
Yeah.
They love running in the mountains, and if they can have something better, make a way to make that experience even better, they'll try it too.
And they tend to have other pieces of equipment, say, in their garage, whether that's a Hoyt bow or it's a certain ski.
Yeah, they're intentional with
their what they use and their purchases. Their bike, for instance, they have this bike for this reason. We a lot of times we call these and I put myself in this category, prosumers. They might never be pros. They might never be able to get to your level, but they still want the same equipment. They want the same experience. And even if it makes them just 1% better, they want it. That's me. And that's, I call myself a gearhead, call me whatever, but that is who I think we're targeting with this equipment here.
That's the beautiful thing about running is nobody's comparing themselves to the Olympian. They're like trying to set their own PR. If they're running a 10K, they want to break 40 or they want to break 45 or 50 or an hour. Right. They're not trying to break 30 and run with Galen Rupp or something. You know what I mean? So it's like that's with running, everybody has their own thing. So if it's going to make you 1% better and you were knocking on the door breaking 40 in a 10K and you just got to get that, a couple more seconds off for 6 miles, this could do it.
Right. Yeah,
and that's what's cool. That's what I love about running is everybody has their own scale that they're measuring themselves on. One thing, I did that ultra last weekend, and what I like about these shoes is it was super muddy and wet, just much the same weekend as the Gorge races were, but this material doesn't hold moisture, so it's like I've had shoes that get heavy, and then you guys have addressed that with this is like, it's not keeping that weight. And then also, you have I used to drill through my old Under Armour shoes so that water wouldn't sit in there and it'd come out that hole. And you guys have this hole actually, this perfectly.
Yeah, you just have to, it goes back to the equipment thing. You just have to trim that with like a wire cutter or whatever. And all of a sudden you can, it'll drain out the bottom.
Yeah, perfect.
Evacuates even faster. We love that idea. Like we find that people who are in equipment space, I'm sure it's the same in bows, bikes, skis, that kind of gear. People spend a lot of time researching what they're going to buy and the reasons they're going to buy it. And then there's oftentimes this customization, right? You don't generally, a bike, you're picking your components and your pedals and your bars, and like they go deep down that. Like everything is just what they want. That's not really available in shoes. You buy that shoe and
is what it is.
Maybe you tweak stuff on your own, but there's not much opportunity. And we're trying to go down that pathway to the extent that people respond to it, right? So our plate comes in and out. That's one example where if you just want the softest ride possible, you can take the plate out. If you want a little bit more snap, if you're a faster runner or you got something that's flat and less technical, throw the plate in and you've got a little bit more propulsion there. It also acts as a rock plate, so if it's a particularly rocky course, you might want to keep the plate in. And that's one example. That BOA we touched on earlier, that's certainly a more customizable fit than you can get with laces. And I think we want to continue to kind of look at those opportunities for, how can we allow people to customize their products to make them just right. Because ultimately what we want, and it's kind of an irony, we want people to forget that they're wearing the product. I mean, the biggest compliment that we can get is I wasn't thinking about my shoes at all. I never had to worry about my shoes.
Feet wasn't an issue. Yeah.
That means that, the product's working the way that it should. So
is there, being, Kip said you were a genius, so you should know this, but is there,
pressure's on.
That propulsion you mentioned, is there a measurable that's saying, because it's added weight, right? How much does a plate weigh on, say, a size 9?
About half an ounce.
Half an ounce. So what are you gaining in propulsion? Is it offsetting that weight on a fairly consistent flat course, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we have a science to prove that it's X% faster, but I think kind of based on evidence and what happens in road when you have that extra kind of snap in there is that it would pay for itself over time. Now, again, if you're a slower runner or you're not up on your toes enough, it might not.
Right, okay.
But it's a personal thing. Like if it feels like it makes you faster, it makes you faster.
And a lot of times, it is. It's like, if it's helping here, it's helping.
Right, and that's true. It's absolutely true. So, and again, that's why we think, in addition to allowing the materials to work better by making it removable, they're not glued together, not laminated, but it just gives the user a choice. You kind of get an A and a B feel out of one product.
The thing about running in the mountains and long races, you have so much time to think. So like, even if I have a hole here, in my head, I'm like, if I didn't have that hole, I'd be like, God, my shoes are heavy. That I can't get rid of this water. My shoes are full of water, and it's like I'm packing all this. But if I have that hole, even if it's the same, I'm like, well, feels better. That water's not staying in that shoe. This is a lot better. So a lot of it is like these mental games. You're just, if you believe in it, it's going to help. Or if you believe it's helping, it's going to help.
Yes.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
I think like you guys, I was, again, on that muddy course. I didn't slip. I saw people really struggling with the mud. And I don't know what wasn't paying attention to what shoes they were wearing. All I know is that like they were going down this super steep hill and they were like, it was dicey whether they're going to go down. And I was just bombing down it. I was telling them to be careful. And I'm bombing by them. I'm like, I remember these two girls were on there and I'm like, be careful, guys, because it looked like it was dangerous with however they were doing it. Yeah. But to me, it felt like, these Michelin soles are, a few places are using them now, or a few shoe companies are using it. It's a good sole, but your guys' tread design, it feels like it's not holding that mud and it's giving you the traction you need, so it's shedding whatever, it's getting rid of it, but also helping.
It's all about like spacing, right? Yeah. And depth, right? Yeah. And how high they are. And a lot of trail shoes these days, because they're, trying to going after maybe lightweight or whatever, the depth on the lugs is getting really, really low now, where it's really maybe not adequate when you get into mud and stuff. So, that's, again, it's that right weight thing where it's like, we got to have enough lug height, which it might add just a little bit of weight, but you have that traction you need when you're in mud, which is, the difference between, again, falling down or making that race time or whatever. Yeah. So
because you slip, you pull your groin or some freaking thing. It's just like, God, what did I gain by having this lighter shoe? Right. But you guys, I mean, they are a little taller, but they're more spread out. So I feel like you guys, if they were tight and tall, of course it'd be more weight, but taller, more spread out seems like the perfect mix. On weight.
It's a process of finding that right balance, because if you put too few, if you space them out too far, then they wear quicker.
Yep.
So it was a iterative process, and working with Michelin is certainly great in the sense they're rubber experts, and it gives us a variety of compounds. Like our PDX, we learned maybe we didn't have the wet rock traction we wanted, We improved that for the next commission, which was the HSV. And now, as we got into the TAM and we go forward, we're just tweaking that to find that right balance of the great traction in the compound and then the right mechanical kind of structure to it.
Yeah, I don't know if the boas have changed the game for sure. I mean, they've been in skiing, I think, for a long time, but they've newer to the running world. I mean, it's been years now, but these definitely have changed the game. And I don't know if it used to be that I didn't know you could back them out before recently. Is that new?
That's a newer boa.
I think we're the only one in this space using that dial because it's their highest end dial. They use it on like the Specialized S-Works cycling shoes. But most of the other products in run space have used a different dial.
Normally you tighten it, then you got to pull it out, and then you start all the way over.
Yeah, that's right. And
so
it seems like a small thing, but I think
it's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's big. And doing two, I guess it could seem excessive, but we really felt like that zonal control, like doing the forefoot, midfoot differently from the top strap is another important, like small detail, but an important one. And we talked to our athletes at the summit about this. Hey, should we change this? Do you guys want to go to laces? Do you want to do one boa? And it was a resounding no. The two is important, and we like this dial, and we don't want laces. So I think that's the kind of feedback that, if it had been different, we would be having a different conversation. But we agree that BOA, that on-the-fly adjustment for different terrain, for different times of day, how your feet are feeling is super important. Like tying your shoes sounds simple. When it's dark and cold and you're in the middle, like you just don't do it.
No, and I was trying to catch my brother. He was leading that the whole way. He was leading that race. I caught up to him twice, I think, on lap. We had six 5-mile laps, and I caught up to him twice. And so I was like, I cannot screw around with the shoe, So it was so nice because normally, if my feet are swollen and it gets tight, I got to loosen it up. I got to start all the way over, and then it's loose, and then you got to go here, and then you're like, can't really remember where it was.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, God, that's actually right where it was. My foot still hurts, or it's still not enough. So then you're like, but with this, where you can just go, two back, I'm good to go. It's exactly what I needed. And then sometimes this gets tight because something happens on all the climbing, the front of your, right on your ankle, the front part of it, those tendons slide in there. Those can get really sore. Yeah. So sometimes you want this tighter, that looser. And just be able to do that for a couple seconds and keep, if I'm trying to track down somebody where they're not stopping either, you can't be messing around. It's like made a big difference. I still never caught him, but it was, it would have been worse. He won the race, but he's won that like 6 times. So, that was good. I do like the heel here too, because I've had a lot of shoes that tear up your heel, and I've said nobody's ever died from a blister, so but man, it feels like when that heel is torn up,
they can be brutal.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Miserable.
Yeah, that's why we have that kind of super soft synthetic suede
perfect
there. It's not going to irritate you.
No, that's perfect, because I think I just did have which one? I mean, the vapor flies. That I tried those too, and those, for whatever reason, those are like freaking sandpaper back there. It tore the hell out of my Achilles.
It's a really minimal heel package in that shoe, and if it doesn't fit you well, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, it was. So this was a nice change from that, but
that's one of those things. We could have gone more minimal. We probably could have saved some weight, but we felt like having a nice cushion, soft and proper heel cup is a big part of the fit in this product, which again we've had really good feedback on. So we didn't want to kind of try to dial that back. We felt like, hey, it's working. Let's keep going with it.
Heel fit's key. If you don't have secure heel fit, that's kind of any sport.
Yeah.
I
know.
That's kind of that's the end of it, basically, right there. Because you can tighten the midfoot all day, but if that heel's going all over the place, that just starts to irritate you and you go crazy.
Well, and from a biomechanics standpoint, at least from some of the people that we've learned from over the years, if you can have a good heel lockdown, control that heel, it helps the whole rest of your foot strike. If you've got a loose heel, now you're compensating and you're using a lot of those smaller muscles to try to stabilize, and it's inefficient. So
it's inefficient and it gets fatigued, and then you start favoring things, and then 200 miles down the road, you're not even the same runner you were when you started.
Yeah.
I mean, your body is just broke down, and it's like the more, I think we touched about it, and we mentioned Courtney stays so consistent, but you know, if you can keep that form as long as possible, everybody gets tired and your stride shortens up and all that shit happens. That happens. But if you can keep your head up, your shoulders back, and still stay in pretty good form, that starts with the feet, though. Yeah. The feet start screwing around, it changes everything up top, you know? And
it's a chain.
It's that kinetic chain. And so it starts, you know, for most people with that heel strike, if you don't have good heel fit, then kind of the rest of it just is disaster. So
the other thing I like with these is that toe box is, you know, you don't want it too big of a toe box, but I remember I ran in I did what was it? Orca Island Marathon. And it was had like 7,000 foot of gain. And I wore the Solomons in that. And they're more, my feet are kind of narrow. So I thought, these Solomons will be good. And I like how they had you pulled it.
The quick pull.
Yeah, the quick pull. And great shoe for short, but once your feet start swelling a little bit and they're kind of narrow, oh my God, my feet were they hurt so bad by the end of it, because your feet, after hours on them, they're just going to swell.
Different shape,
Yeah, and it's like with a little more, so you can be tighter here, and then if your feet do swell, you can do that, and gives you a little, you know what's going to happen, so you have to have a shoe that's going to, accommodate that. But
that's a kind of one of those fine balances that we try to find with the last, where if it's too wide, you feel sloppy and you don't have good control on the forefoot. And if it's too narrow, then you have the problem you described, where your feet swell and there's nowhere to go. So it's finding that kind of middle ground where you've got enough width that your feet can swell, but you've got a closure system that allows you to still be really secure.
A lot of ultra runners like to buy like at least a half size too big on purpose, because they know that when they get into those miles later, that their feet are going to be bigger. So they purposely go a half size bigger at least. Yeah.
I've done the drop bag later with the bigger shoe, just knowing that. But like, you get desperate when you're, I've been in races and I'm like, does somebody have a knife? I just want to cut the top just so I can you'll do anything. Yeah, if your feet hurt, because you don't want to quit. Yeah. You can't say, well, why'd you quit? Oh, my feet hurt. What? I mean, you're a pussy. So you're like, what do I got to do? Do I take my socks off? Do I need to cut this shoe? And so it's like, man, your feet, it's like I said, you get in your head on all these little things. And as I think you mentioned, what you want to hear is that you never thought about your feet, or the shoes were never an issue. You were just able to perform. But
that's what we hope for and work toward, is to make sure that the shoes don't become a distraction.
What do we say? Absence of sensation.
Yeah.
That's.
I like that.
Yeah.
Man, this has been fun. I love talking shoes. I mean, we
can talk it all the rest of the day.
God, this is
we're
awesome.
Looking forward to this. I mean, it's great. Great. Going to be a cool partnership, and I think this product, will be.
They can order these today and get them tomorrow. Is that what?
They can order the GS Tam today.
Oh. Yeah, they can get the same shoe today, but not in this color. So your commission will probably be late summer.
Okay, so they'll be able to. They can get them late summer.
That's the goal.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't started building them obviously yet.
Right.
We got some details to work out. This is the very first sample, so we're glad that
everybody's seen the initial prototype.
Yeah.
That's oh man, it looks so badass. I wanted blood on it, because it's like I used to have a column about bow hunting, and it's like, hey, sometimes you got to bleed. We don't want our feet bleeding, but it's like symbolism. Like, hey, sometimes it's going to have to take everything you got. If you drop a few drops of blood, that's okay too. So I like that. It's just a symbol of sacrifice to me. Like, we're going to bleed to do it, but the shoe looks awesome. I know it performs well. People, I think, are going to eat this up. It's badass.
I think we think it came out great. So we're excited to put the final.
And late summer, that's not too bad. I thought we were on the Under Armour, like, maybe 5 years. Yeah. 5 years we should have those to fall of 29.
Well, we're moving faster than that. So
Good.
Yeah,
Well,
should be great.
I love it. Man, it's an honor to work with you guys. I love that it's small and able to be, I don't know, kind of nimble and make quick decisions and get this out there. That's the good part of being, a smaller company, and we're going to kick ass. It means a lot to me that we were able to form this partnership. And now people who come here on the podcast, we're going to have shoes available, Speedland shoes available. They can run in if they'd like. I'll have different sizes of shoes. People can come on, try them out, see what they think. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us. This has been great.
Thank you. And we'll end this with the keep hammering. These guys are outliers. You know that now after listening, but keep hammering. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use. Every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom. I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with. Giving my blood, so I am relentless. My fault, they want someone to blame. They sent their hate, it fuels my pace. I am Roy Tough, I am the change, the fuel in dirt. Feeling like Cam Hain.